Hey guys, Mike here and welcome back to another video on the channel. If you've been following on Instagram, you've seen I've been doing some pretty serious surgery on the XJ, on the drip rails. Essentially having to cut everything out on the side of the roof and separate the seam of the drip rail so it's back to one piece of steel, and build some new drip rails out of box section and get those welded in. And I've completed one side, that's all welded in, done all the filler on it, and it's continuous weld top and bottom, so no holes, and the filler I'm using is liquid metal, so it's an absolute bastard to sand, but it doesn't absorb water like kind of normal body filler. But you can see that I finished the workshop behind me. I've actually got a ceiling in now, the lights are in, got the door rebuilt, so it's 90mm thick, put a new frame in, that's all sealed up, ready for the winter. Got the heating system installed as well, and doubled up the door and put a new frame in for this door here, so it's a little bit thinner than the walls, but you know, it should provide just a bit more warmth. And if you remember last winter I was working in a bit of a smaller workshop that was not insulated. It's basically just a shed. You could see through the slats in the planks on the wall, and it was -23 outside, and I was blasting through diesel to try and heat this place. It wasn't good at all for anything really, for me, for the environment, for all sorts of stuff. But I was hoping to get the video of the drip rails out for Sunday, but it's just such time consuming work. Body work always is. I can't rush this job. I had another video in mind for today, and that's really based upon questions that subscribers have asked me in the comments section, also a lot of personal messages on Instagram and Facebook. And that's really that people are asking, should they buy an old Cherokee like this as a project, either an overlander or an off-roader, or just kind of a project to work on a vehicle and do it up. And I really wanted to answer that by asking everyone else a lot of questions, really. That's kind of the way this is going to go. I guess kind of my own experience really comes down to the kind of person I am, and that's part of the problem and part of the solution in a way. When you see me working on this vehicle, I literally put everything into it when I'm doing a job, and that's probably part of the reason why I get employed to do a specific job at the moment in another garage, which is a restoration job of rebuilding a particular car that I've been on for over a year now, and I'm actually having a break from it because it's in the paint shop. You know, it depends on the sort of person you are to how you're going to build a vehicle, is what I'm saying. If you've got severe OCD like me, or just, you know, a lot of attention to detail, then it's going to be a real tough project for you, and there's going to be a lot of work to do. But if you're just going to buy a vehicle like this, you're going to put a lift kit on it, put tyres on it, put a bumper on it, you know, do a little bit of fabrication here and there, a little bit of body work just to get it through inspections, or have a mate do some body work to get it through inspections, and then you're going to take it out and you're just going to blast it around the mud pits, have fun. It's going to be a bit of a different experience for you. It also depends on whether you've got a workshop. My workshop's very small, but it's also pretty adequate, and it's fairly modest, and I've got a lot of tools here to do jobs. I've got mini lathe, I've got pillar drills, I've got metal cutters, I've got a gas welder, you know, like a MIG, and all the other stuff for re-gearing diffs, and lots of other tools too. It would be brilliant if it had a concrete floor with a pit, because obviously the roof isn't very high, and that's kind of the thing here with these kind of standard car garages. You know, you don't get a particularly high roof, but I don't mind that because it gets heated up very fast. And obviously if I've got some major work to do, I take it to work and I put it on the lift, and that's kind of the plus there, or knowing people that let you do that. When you buy a vehicle like this, you know that it's going to have some corrosion. It's going to have corrosion on all of the seams, in between the two sheets of metal on the drip rail, in between the two sheets of metal where they connect the sill or the rocker panel on the rear wheel wells where it all runs back to the rear quarter panel, that seam along the rear wheel well that connects the well to the body and then runs back to the rear quarter panel, 99% of the time corrosion. And those areas either get cut out, or they get patched up, or they get fiberglass or whatever. And when you buy a vehicle, maybe that's what they've done and you just don't know that, and there's a load of rust waiting for you on the inside. And you know, a few years down the line, major repair work, and you have to take that to a garage because you don't have a garage and you can't weld, you don't have a welder, and you don't know anyone with a welder. Basically they have to do the job for you. They're going to charge you 400 quid or $500 or whatever. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and it's not as good a job as you'd have liked. And and that's the story of owning a vehicle like this. So it all sounds like doom and gloom right now, but what I'm trying to do is paint a picture of reality, and that's the reality that I've been through over the last 7-8 years of the two vehicles I've had, this one and another Jeep before it. And when I first bought the vehicle, no garage. Working outside in the UK, very wet climate, a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. When you do some priming on a vehicle and you let it sit even in a garage, if the garage isn't heated and well sealed up, moisture gets into the body filler, moisture gets into the primer, you got issues years down the line. You have to revisit the project, like I'm doing again on the drip rail back there that I talked about right at the start of the video, and like I had to do on the box rockers, which I showed videos of the failure I had with that. But the point I'm trying to make is rust is a major issue on old vehicles, and that kind of backtracks to the kind of person you are. If you're going to take it out and beat it and do mud pit stuff and just get through inspections as best you can, then who cares about rust? A little bit of rust repaired here and there, not a problem. If you're going to make a really decked out overland vehicle, you want it to be really nice and structural and solid and things like that, then yeah, maybe rust's a bit more of a problem. If you add a dash of OCD to that, like me, or maybe even a dollop of OCD, like me, then you're suddenly in major problems, because rust to you is a big deal, like it is to me. Then you spend a lot of time cutting out stuff and putting stuff in and correcting problems. So I guess the first 4 years of that Jeep's life was me shot blasting, angle grinders, cutting out rust, welding new panels in, and looking for solutions to fix rusty areas that were prone to rusting again. Bodywork's time consuming, rust work's time consuming, and that all comes back to whether you give a shit, basically, or whether you just want to take the vehicle out and beat it around. I don't. I like restoring vehicles and doing a nice job and making things look good. So that's the rod I make for my own back, basically, and why you see me put so much time into something like that. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Can I take it with me when I die? No. But for me, there's another element of it. Whether it's kind of like therapy for me, and I'm covered in, I'm covered in like dust right now. The garage is a mess. I've been out here 5 hours sanding. It's late at night, but that's kind of like my therapy. I come out here and I forget about everything, and I'm focusing my attention on a job. I'm doing that job to the best of my ability, and you're spending time, and it's a satisfaction of kind of making it better than it was, and you've done that, and you're making it look really nice, and you're also correcting a problem going forward that you don't have to go back to, which is a great feeling. And then I focus on the fun stuff later down the line, like putting an SYE kit in, fabricating some brackets for long arms, making my own long arm kit, stuff that isn't meticulous like bodywork, but will improve the performance of the vehicle on and off road, or just off road really, and and having fun, and having fun with it and making it my own. So for me, it's an enjoyable process. I really love it. For some people, that might sound like absolute crap and you don't want to do it, and it also might sound like a waste of money, and that's another coin you have to check out, because you might think, oh, well, you save a ton of money, Mike, because you're doing all the work yourself. No, I still spend a lot of money on the vehicle, on parts, on tools, on materials like filler and paint. Just to get 4 litres of Raptor liners, €135. The primer, €70. All the sanding materials and the filler, probably another €40. And then there's the time and everything else, and cans of brake cleaner, and I've got a spare AX15 gearbox, a spare transfer case, I've got a spare engine, all spare engine parts, suspension, drive shafts. So it kind of might sound like doom and gloom, and I'm like putting you off buying a vehicle and working on it, but what I'm trying to do is just shed some reality on it, and my advice would be to absolutely do it, because it's a lot of fun, and everyone needs a hobby. And life's short. And if you think about vehicles like this era of solid axle, boxy, kind of four-wheel drives, like the Pajero, like the old Hiluxes, you know, Forerunners and Defenders and Discovery 2, all those kind of like solid axle vehicles. I don't think the Forerunner actually has a solid axle, but you do a solid axle conversion on it, I'm sure of it. But all those kind of vehicles like that, you know, they're vanishing. Would I recommend buying one with a diesel engine? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a good engine, but the problem is it's a shit engine initially with the original cylinder heads on it, because they're just rubbish, you know. And the original gaskets, the 4-part gasket, no good, sadly. If you bought one and you did what I did to it, it's a great engine. It's reliable, it sounds good, it's got a lot of pulling power. Look at what I've done with it, with a seemingly bad engine. You know, people hate this engine, they say it's terrible. None of them really know why. They just think it's terrible. But if you actually fix a few things on it, it's a pretty solid diesel engine. And you know, I've done many miles with it, gone around Europe with it. You know, we just did 1,700 Ks around northern Sweden. We were out in the wilderness, really remote areas, you know, really far from people. And if you broke down, you'd have a hell of a job getting reception. You probably have to walk a long way. You know, but yeah, you know, it's just about knowing your vehicle. Coming back to it, yeah, I think you should buy a vehicle like this, even if you have to store it and then find a garage later. These things are only getting rarer and rarer. I don't just mean XJs, I just mean vehicles of this era. And my advice would be to find one with as little rust as possible, because that's where the money and the time is. Putting on a suspension lift, putting on big tyres, changing brakes, new calipers, you know, putting in new brake lines, putting on a new tyre carrier, putting on a roof rack, putting on a roof tent. You know, that's easy stuff. You know, it's just unbolting, bolting back on. Yeah, okay, you might have problems with corrosion, you might shear a bolt, and you might have to, like, you know, weld something to the bolt and crank it out, and you might get problems, and you have to use a torch to heat stuff up. You know, so what? It's still easy work. Body work isn't easy. You know, and if you buy a Jeep that's got a ton of rust and you've got to cut a floor pan out, or a drip rail's trashed, or your box rocker's trashed, or the rear wheel well's got big holes in it, that's where your money and your time's going to go. So my advice to you would be to find a vehicle with as little rust as possible, and if you have to pay a little bit more for it, do it, because then you can just get straight into the fun stuff. If you buy one that's got a good body, then it's just suspension, and you can start doing the fun things, you know. And that's the difference. If you buy a tub that's bleh to begin with, what's the point of throwing money at it? It's like buying a house with dry rot, you know, eaten by termites and beetles and stuff, and then buying really nice furniture and putting it in there and renovating the inside and painting it, and it's got holes in the roof. What's the point in doing that? You need a decent house to begin with before you start putting money into it. And it's the same with a vehicle. Man, I get really into this sort of thing, don't I? People out there probably watching this like, what a loser. Anyway, that's enough from me. I got too much work to do. In fact, I'll show you what I'm up to. So I've just put that new drip rail in, and that's the brand new drip rail all in now. I've still got to do a bit more filler work because we're not too smooth up there. But the finish will be this stuff here. It's going to be Raptor liner. It's going to be a really aggressive finish that hides a lot of imperfections, like, you know, these welds here, not completely smooth, but the Raptor kind of helps you out there with that. But that was like the other side before, you know, so I had to cut it all out basically, and separate the seam. So, you know, that's just down to one piece of metal, and that's where the rust was. It's in between the seam, where the roof came down and went out like that, and you had rust in between. It was pushing it apart. So I saved the bottom piece and cleaned that up, and you know, and basically found this piece of box section, cut it diagonally in half like that. Obviously it's got a bit of rust on it, but it's about 2.5mm thick, so I can grind 0.5mm off and clean it up, and that's been welded in. And you know, this time round I used continuous weld, top and bottom. I had to do a little bit of filling with the weld, like rosette weld all the way along there just to fill a little gap, but I've sealed that off, and and that's it really. And that's kind of what I mean. You don't want to buy a vehicle and have to do that, straight off the bat. And if you took that to a shop, that would cost you an absolute fortune to get that done. If there's anyone still left watching this video, I think it's been like 37 minutes. I hopefully I've managed to cut it down a bit. I've got quite a lot of projects coming up from the winter. I mean, if you follow the channel, you know that I retire the Jeep into the workshop pretty much every time this year. Say autumn comes, end of the summer, gets used all summer, we have great fun with it, and then for about 3 months I'm kind of into it, kind of doing correction work while it's fresh in my mind. I bought some new wheel nuts, just some little jobs. Got some shims, gonna do an SYE kit on the rear transfer case. I've got a spare transfer case down there. I might put the wider chain on, I'm not sure. I might just put an SYE kit on and get a new drive shaft, and then use these shims to adjust the pinion angle at the back there. Picked up some new U-bolts, got some big ones, so that's a job that needs to be done. Getting new U-bolts in for the leaf packs at the back. I've got some new bump stops too. Also going to look at fabricating a rear bumper, but to be honest with you, most of my finances now, apart from paying an extortionate amount of tax and other bills, are going into thinking about investing in a 488 gear set. I'd love to do lockers at the same time, but it's just too much money. It's just way too much money. I mean, maybe if I can find the cash, but it's very unlikely. But getting it re-geared to 488 this winter would be great. Be nice to pull the axles out, but I've got a little bit of a surprise project on the way. Hopefully it arrives. A chap in Russia managed to get me a part, and this part is like, if you've got a right-hand drive XJ, this part is like hen's teeth, flipping rare, very, very hard to find. So I'm going to be doing a double WJ knuckle conversion, high steer with massive double piston Akebono disc calipers. Did that make any sense? I didn't even explain it properly. Basically upgrading the front disc brakes, so they're enormous, big discs and everything else, a lot bigger, a lot more stopping power. It's going to sort a lot of issues out, and it's going to bring the steering, the geometry up even more, and that should be interesting. So I've got a lot of things to come, plus tons of little jobs too. So anyway, I've talked a lot, so I hope this video answered some questions. I hope it inspired some people maybe to buy an old vehicle like that and put some time into it. It's really about what you want to do. But thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, ask them below. If you've got any suggestions for me or anyone else, just put them below. Check out the links in the description. Thanks again for watching. Take care.